What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and all firearms are safety checked and cleared, and mags have been removed simply because this is a trigger video, and I do carry the Glock 42 from time to time. Now, today we're going to be talking about the best overall trigger that you can purchase for your PSA Dagger. And honestly, I'm just going to say for Glocks in general, because I do run them in a lot of my Glocks, even some of my carry Glocks. My Glock 43 that I used to work carry, it's just been replaced by my Diamondback. But that 43 trigger is an absolute animal. Anyways, the PSA Dagger trigger from Trigger Shark. First of all, I like the Dagger. They're the micro Dagger. My PSA original Dagger had problems. But the micro Dagger has been absolutely solid. It's been flawless, and I really like the way the thing feels. And I really like the beaver tail on it. It actually really locks your hand into the firearm, allows you to shoot accurately with very, very minimal recoil. Now, right here is the Trigger Shark trigger. Now, what it is it is an adjustable trigger. So what you see right here is not what you necessarily get. You can choose what you get. And I'll show you the differences here in a second. But right out of the package, this is how it comes. Ready? Look at that. Nothing but a nice defined wall still. Crisp, clean, probably about 4.5 pounds. And the system isn't even that expensive or anything. You can use code SPN for 15% off. That's code SPN for 15% off. Now watch this reset. Now, like I said, you can adjust it. And what I also like about this trigger versus your original Dagger trigger is the Dagger trigger uses a hinge trigger. So if you hold too high up on the trigger like this, it's going to give you like an awkward trigger pull, right? You're going to hit like a little bit of a wall, but it'll finally go through or whatever the case may be. It's like the older Smith & Wessons, for instance, like right here, right? I just happen to have one sitting by. That can cause issues in self-defense because your trigger, your fingers, not always going to end up where you want on your firearm. For instance, look, up top, see it hits that weird, the dingus, it's doing its job. You hear it? It's hitting. But if I come down here with it, it goes. Same with the micro Dagger. Now you have just a traditional trigger dingus, right? So basically anywhere you touch, even up top, is going to depress it. Anywhere on that trigger, and you have that amazing, sweet, about 4.5 pound trigger pull. And it comes with the full housing and everything. It's ready to go right out of the box. It's just a drop-in. And yeah, it completely changes the game. Trigger Shark makes the best trigger for also the way it feels. You notice the lasering on it? Not only is that a design, but it's micro lasering. It's almost like stippling for your trigger. Therefore, not only does it look sick, and it actually happens to match my build right here, but also it feels really, really good on the finger. And also, if you're wondering about the optic, I run a lot of Sealy optics. I like them. I've tested them in 0-degree weather. I've never had to change a battery on them. I've never had one break. I've never had anything. You can use code SPN for 10% off on the Sealy website. I'm starting to get coupon codes for you guys to help save you a little bit of money. But anyways, this trigger is just ridiculous. And if you don't believe me, try it. Like I said, only $70. Use code SPN, get you a good percentage off. Try this thing. It is ridiculous. Your firearm moves nowhere. Now, oh, sorry, I don't have it in this 42. But this is what a traditional Glock trigger pulls. Grit, 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 grit. See that? With the Trigger Shark trigger, you see that? It's just boom, boom. Boom, nice defined wall, no grit, no sponge, nothing. Now here's one for my 23. I haven't adjusted this one yet, so this one is as far out as you can make it. So if you want more of a defensive-oriented trigger, you can leave it like this. See, a little bit more, but still so crisp and clean. Oh my goodness. Reset, a little bit longer on this one. Like I said, it is adjustable though. This, I'm telling you, like he always says to me, I know the guy who owns Trigger Shark. I actually was in a store one day, and I saw all these Glocks with these weird triggers on them. There's a whole stand. I'm like, that's really odd. I've never seen that before. And I went over there, started messing around with them. Then I'm like, I have to reach out to this person and find out, what are you? What company? How come I haven't heard of you? That whole sort of thing. Everybody who's bought a Trigger Shark trigger for my recommendation has come back and has been extremely happy. I mean, look at this. Honestly, if you have a Dagger, all you need is this trigger, and you have one of the best concealed carry oriented handguns out there. I'm telling you, it's one of the most accurate triggers that I own. I kid you not. It is the best Glock trigger out there, and it's affordable. Apex is at like 100. I mean, it's ridiculous. On my 23, oh, it's so clean. It's so dang clean. It's crisp, but the nice thing I like about it is there's no grip. And I think that's just a testimony of the man who makes these triggers. He's obsessed. He literally sits there and just focuses all his energy, just musters up, you know, he just goes crazy on it. That's all he does is perfection, perfection, perfection. If it's not perfect, I don't want it. Like I said, the one for the Glock 42 is unreal as well. This one right here doesn't have it, but you can see the more grit sponge, and then it breaks. Still not a bad trigger, but this is just a game changer. It's still defined. It's still an everyday carry-oriented trigger. See that? It's just so much better than the dang hinge trigger from PSA. Now, for the larger handguns, it's not as good. I'm just going to be honest with you. The best trigger from Trigger Shark is for the 42, 43X, 48, 43, and the Dagger. They all use a very similar system, which allows them to have a nicer, cleaner, crisper trigger. Then I would say the Gen 5s. Then I would say the double stack 45s and 10 millimeters. And then from that point on, then I would say the Gen 1 through 3 typical double stacks. Now, right here is a Glock trigger I have. I'll show you. This is one of my carry guns. I am going to be throwing a Trigger Shark trigger in here because look at how spongy this trigger is. You see that? That's just a Glock OEM trigger, right? And that's what this man focuses on. This is what he does. He makes a trigger that you can adjust. So if you want it to be longer, you can make it longer and all that, but it's just ridiculous. If you adjust this, you can probably get it to start here, where this is all you have, to the wall. I kid you not. You can adjust it to make it like that, and then boom. For EDC, though, I do recommend leaving a little bit on there. Just, you know, it's basically just to offset if you're grappling, if you're fighting over a firearm, that finger gets in the trigger guard, whatever the case may be. And like I said, I met the man because I had to know. I've never heard of them before until a couple of months ago when I was in my local gun store. They had a full stand. And since I felt one trigger, I'm like, I have to know who this person is. And like I said, I finally, got you guys, what do you call it, a code from Sealy. I run lots of Sealys. I just do. It's one of my favorite optics because, one, it's affordable. But, two, it performs just like a Howelson for a cheaper price. I've never had one die, nothing. So getting something like this for a micro dagger, a Sealy, a Trigger Shark trigger, and you're good to go. If you ever see me in person, if you ever meet me, if you ever say, hey, what are you carrying? If I'm carrying a firearm with an optic, it's going to have a Sealy on it. That's just how I do it. There's not a single thing I will promote and tell you that I do if I don't do it. If I don't trust it, if I don't believe in it. One thing I do recommend, though, if you're adding any new trigger to any system that you own, what I do is always break it in. Sit at home when the first night, go like this. Before you even take it to the range, just sit there and mess with it. Sorry, my hands are slippery. Just sit there, break it in. This didn't need any break-in period, but I've had Apexes where, because of all the nice polishing on it, here, I can take it down, all the polishing, look at that. Look how nice that looks. Here's the Dagger trigger. Look at that. Look at that. Such a nice setup. But like I said, just break it in. I recommend it. It's free. And then once you get to the range, obviously, get some rounds through it. But once it meshes with your system, it's game over. It's the best Glock trigger on the market. That's the Trigger Shark. Code SPN for 15% off.